Siddhartha Gautama, the Enlightened One, over 2,500 years ago, in the small kingdom of Kapilavastu, nestled at the foothills of the Himalayas, a prince named Siddhartha was born. His father, King Suddhodana, and his mother, Queen Maya, were part of the Shakya clan. According to legend, Queen Maya had a dream where a white elephant entered her side, signifying the birth of a great soul. On the night of his birth, the air was filled with a sense of wonder and peace. Wise men prophesied that the child would become either a great king or a renowned spiritual leader. Raised in luxury and comfort, Siddhartha was shielded from the harsh realities of life. The king, wanting his son to follow in his footsteps, kept him within the confines of the palace, surrounded by all manner of pleasures and distractions. Siddhartha excelled in his studies and was skilled in the arts of combat and leadership, but he always felt an inexplicable yearning for something beyond his princely duties. At the age of 16, Siddhartha married Yasodhara, a beautiful and wise princess from a neighboring kingdom. Together, they enjoyed a loving and supportive relationship. However, despite his seemingly perfect life, Siddhartha was restless. He often wondered about the world outside the palace walls and the true nature of existence. At the age of 29, Siddhartha convinced his charioteer, Chuna, to take him beyond the palace gates. On these excursions, he encountered what are now known as the four sights: an old man, a sick man, a dead man, and a wandering ascetic. These sights profoundly affected him, revealing the impermanence of life and the pervasive nature of suffering. Disturbed by these revelations, Siddhartha became increasingly disillusioned with his sheltered life. Despite his father's attempts to dissuade him, he decided to renounce his princely status and seek the truth about human existence. One night, he bid farewell to his wife, Yasodhara, and their newborn son, Rahula. He left the palace, cutting off his hair and exchanging his royal robes for the simple garb of a wandering ascetic. This event is known as the Great Renunciation. Siddhartha embarked on a quest to understand the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. He sought out renowned teachers and practiced severe asceticism, believing that self-mortification would lead to enlightenment. For 6 years, he subjected his body to extreme deprivation, enduring hunger, thirst, and physical pain. Despite his rigorous efforts, Siddhartha did not achieve the insight he sought. Realizing that neither indulgence nor extreme asceticism could lead to enlightenment, Siddhartha adopted the middle way, a path of moderation. He settled under a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya and resolved not to rise until he had attained true understanding. 4 days, Siddhartha meditated, confronting and overcoming the temptations and distractions presented by Mara, the demon of illusion. Mara tried to sway him with visions of desire, fear, and doubt, but Siddhartha remained steadfast. Finally, on the full moon of May, he attained nirvana, a state of perfect wisdom and compassion. Siddhartha became the Buddha, the Enlightened One, having awakened to the true nature of existence. Following his enlightenment, the Buddha sought to share his insights with others. He traveled to Sarnath, where he delivered his first sermon to his former companions, known as the Dhammacoppapavarvant Sutta, or the setting in motion the wheel of Dharma. In this sermon, he outlined the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, which form the foundation of Buddhist teaching. The Four Noble Truths are: Point 1. The truth of suffering dukkha. Life is filled with suffering and dissatisfaction. 2. The truth of the cause of suffering samudaya. Suffering is caused by desire and attachment. 3. The truth of the end of suffering nirvana. Suffering can be ended by overcoming desire. 4. The truth of the path leading to the end of suffering magga. The path to the cessation of suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path consists of: Point 1. Right understanding. 2. Right intent. 3. Right speech. 4. Right action. 5. Right livelihood. 6. Right effort. 7. Right mindfulness. 8. Right concentration. For the next 45 years, the Buddha traveled across northern India, teaching and gathering disciples. His followers came from all walks of life, from kings and nobles to peasants and outcasts. The Buddha's teachings emphasized the impermanence of all things, the interdependence of life, and the importance of compassion and ethical conduct. The Buddha established the Sangha, a community of monks and nuns who dedicated their lives to practicing and spreading his teachings. The Sangha was open to people of all backgrounds, and its members were expected to adhere to a strict code of conduct. They lived simple lives, relying on alms for sustenance and devoting their time to study, meditation, and teaching. The Buddha also encouraged laypeople to follow the 5 precepts, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxication. He emphasized that enlightenment was accessible to all, regardless of social status or gender, and that the path to liberation was through ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom. As the Sangha grew, the Buddha's teachings spread throughout India and beyond. He attracted a diverse group of followers, including notable disciples such as Sariputta, Moggallana, Ananda, and Mahapajapati Gautama, his aunt and the first woman to be ordained as a nun. The Buddha's teachings, or Dharma, were conveyed through numerous discourses and parables. One of the most famous parables is that of the blind men and the elephant, which illustrates the importance of understanding different perspectives. In this story, several blind men touch different parts of an elephant and each describe it differently, leading to confusion and disagreement. The Buddha used this parable to teach that partial understanding can lead to misconceptions, and that wisdom comes from seeing the whole picture. Another key teaching is the concept of dependent origination, which explains the interconnectedness of all phenomena. According to this doctrine, everything arises and ceases due to specific conditions, and nothing exists independently. This understanding helps to dissolve the illusion of a permanent self and promotes a deeper appreciation of the interdependent nature of life. The Buddha also taught the practice of mindfulness, or vipassana meditation, which involves cultivating awareness of the present moment. By observing thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attachment or aversion, practitioners can develop insight into the nature of their minds and reduce suffering. Throughout his life, the Buddha encountered numerous individuals from various walks of life, each with their unique stories and struggles. These encounters often led to profound transformations. One notable encounter was with Angulimala, a notorious bandit who had vowed to kill 1,000 people. When Angulimala tried to attack the Buddha, he found himself unable to catch up with him, despite the Buddha walking calmly. The Buddha's compassion and calm presence led Angulimala to abandon his violent ways and become a devoted monk. Another significant conversion was that of King Bimbisara of Magadha. Impressed by the Buddha's wisdom, Bimbisara became a patron of the Sangha and donated the Bamboo Grove Monastery in Rajagaha, where the Buddha and his disciples could reside and teach. The Buddha also converted his cousin Devadatta, although their relationship later became strained. Devadatta attempted to usurp the leadership of the Sangha and even tried to kill the Buddha. Despite these betrayals, the Buddha remained compassionate, understanding the depth of human frailty and delusion. The Buddha's teachings were revolutionary in many ways, including his views on the role of women. At a time when women were often seen as inferior, the Buddha recognized their potential for enlightenment and spiritual growth. Mahapajapati Gautama, the Buddha's aunt and foster mother, approached him with a request to join the Sangha. Initially hesitant, the Buddha eventually agreed, establishing the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the order of nuns. This decision provided women with unprecedented opportunities for education, spiritual practice, and leadership. The Bhikkhuni Sangha flourished, with many women attaining high levels of spiritual realization. Notable nuns such as Khema and Uppalavana became renowned for their wisdom and teaching abilities, contributing significantly to the spread of Buddhism. The Buddha's teachings extended beyond personal spiritual development to address broader societal issues. He advocated for nonviolence, social equality, and justice. His teachings on compassion and loving-kindness metta emphasized the importance of treating all beings with respect and care. The Buddha's influence led to significant social changes. For example, his teachings encouraged the abandonment of animal sacrifices in religious rituals and promoted vegetarianism. His emphasis on ethical conduct and social responsibility inspired many rulers and leaders to adopt policies that reflected these values. Emperor Ashoka of India is a prime example of a ruler profoundly influenced by Buddhism. After witnessing the horrors of war, Ashoka embraced the Buddha's teachings and dedicated his reign to promoting peace, justice, and welfare. He erected pillars and stupas inscribed with Buddhist teachings across his empire, spreading the Dharma far and wide. As the Buddha aged, he continued to travel and teach, despite the physical challenges that came with old age. He was deeply committed to guiding his disciples and ensuring the continuity of his teachings. In his final years, the Buddha's health began to decline. He accepted an invitation from Kunda, a blacksmith, to have a meal in Pava. After eating, he fell seriously ill, but faced his suffering with equanimity and mindfulness. Despite his condition, he continued his journey to Kushinagar, where he knew he would enter parinirvana. Gathering his disciples around him, the Buddha gave his final teachings, emphasizing the impermanence of all things and the importance of diligent practice. He urged his followers to rely on themselves and the Dharma, saying, "Be a lamp unto yourselves. Work out your own salvation with diligence." In the presence of his devoted disciples, the Buddha lay down on his right side, in the lion's pasture, and entered deep meditation. With his mind serene and clear, he passed into parinirvana, the ultimate state of liberation, free from the cycle of birth and death. Following the Buddha's passing, his disciples were deeply saddened, but determined to preserve and disseminate his teachings. The first Buddhist council was convened shortly after his death in Rajagaha, under the patronage of King Ajatasattu. The council aimed to compile and organize the Buddha's teachings to ensure their accurate transmission. Led by the senior disciple Mahakassapa, the council gathered 500 enlightened monks, or arhats. Ananda, the Buddha's cousin and close attendant, who had a remarkable memory, recited the Buddha's discourses suttas, while Apolli recited the monastic rules Vinaya. These recitations formed the basis of the Pali Canon, the authoritative scriptures of Theravada Buddhism. The council's efforts ensured that the Buddha's teachings were preserved and passed down through generations. This tradition of oral transmission continued until the teachings were eventually written down several centuries later, safeguarding the Dharma for future practitioners. After the Buddha's death, Buddhism continued to spread throughout India and beyond, evolving into various schools and traditions. The efforts of monks, nuns, and lay followers played a crucial role in this expansion. One of the earliest and most significant patrons of Buddhism was Emperor Ashoka, who ruled much of the Indian subcontinent in the 3rd century BCE. After converting to Buddhism, Ashoka sent missionaries to various regions, including Sri Lanka, Central Asia, and the Mediterranean. His support and promotion of Buddhism helped establish it as a major spiritual tradition. In Sri Lanka, the missionary efforts of Mahinda, Ashoka's son, led to the establishment of a strong Buddhist community. The teachings took root and flourished, resulting in the creation of significant Buddhist texts and the construction of sacred sites, such as the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy. Buddhism also spread to Southeast Asia, influencing the cultures of Burma, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos. The Pali Canon was transmitted and preserved in these regions, and local traditions incorporated the Buddha's teachings into their cultural and spiritual practices. In East Asia, Buddhism reached China via the Silk Road. Chinese scholars and translators such as Kumarayeva and Xuanzang played a pivotal role in translating Buddhist texts into Chinese, and making them accessible to a wider audience. The establishment of monasteries and the patronage of emperors facilitated the spread of Buddhism throughout China. From China, Buddhism spread to Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, adapting to local cultures and evolving into distinct schools such as Chan Zen in Japan, Pure Land, and Nichiren Buddhism. The teachings of the Buddha influenced art, literature, philosophy, and daily life in these regions, leaving an enduring legacy. As Buddhism spread and evolved, various schools of thought and practice emerged, each contributing to the richness and diversity of the tradition. Two major branches of Buddhism, Theravada and Mahayana, developed distinct philosophies and practices while sharing a common foundation in the Buddha's teachings. Theravada, often referred to as the teaching of the elders, emphasizes the original teachings of the Buddha as preserved in the Pali Canon. It focuses on individual liberation through ethical conduct, meditation, and insight into the nature of reality. Theravada practitioners aim to become arhats, fully enlightened beings who have overcome all defilements and attained nirvana. Mahayana, meaning great vehicle, developed in the early centuries of the Common Era. It introduced new scriptures, known as the Mahayana Sutras, and expanded the understanding of the Buddha's teachings. Mahayana emphasizes the ideal of the Bodhisattva, a being who seeks enlightenment not only for oneself, but also for the benefit of all sentient beings. Compassion and the aspiration to help others are central to Mahayana practice. Within Mahayana, several influential schools emerged, including 1. Zenchan in China emphasizes direct experience and meditation Zazen as the path to enlightenment. Zen practices often include koans, paradoxical questions, or statements that challenge conventional thinking and lead to deeper insight. 2. Pure Land focuses on devotion to Amitabha Buddha and the aspiration to be reborn in the Pure Land, a realm of perfect bliss where enlightenment is easily attained. Recitation of Amitabha's name is a common practice. 3. Tibetan Buddhism Vajrayana combines elements of Mahayana with esoteric practices known as Tantra. It emphasizes the use of rituals, mantras, and visualizations to accelerate the path to enlightenment. Tibetan Buddhism also places great importance on the guidance of spiritual teachers lamas. Buddhist philosophy continued to evolve, addressing complex metaphysical and ethical questions. Notable philosophers such as Nagarjuna, Asanga, and Vasubandhu, who made significant contributions to the understanding of emptiness shunyata, the nature of consciousness, and the interdependent arising of all phenomena. Buddhism's rich heritage is reflected in its art and architecture, which serve as powerful expressions of the Buddhist teachings and the spiritual journey of practitioners. From the earliest stupas to the grand monasteries and temples, Buddhist art and architecture have inspired devotion and contemplation for centuries. Stupas, mound-like structures containing relics of the Buddha or other revered figures, are among the earliest forms of Buddhist architecture. The Great Stupa at Sanchi in India, built by Emperor Ashoka, is a notable example. Stupas symbolize the Buddha's enlightened mind and serve as focal points for meditation and pilgrimage. As Buddhism spread, distinct architectural styles developed in different regions. In East Asia, pagodas, multi-tiered towers often built near temples, became prominent. The Horyuji Temple in Japan, one of the oldest wooden buildings in the world, features a 5-story pagoda that exemplifies the elegance and harmony of Buddhist architecture. Buddhist art encompasses a wide range of forms, including sculptures, paintings, and ritual objects. Early Buddhist art often depicted symbolic representations of the Buddha, such as footprints, the wheel of Dharma, and the Bodhi tree. Over time, artists began to create iconic images of the Buddha, portraying him with specific physical characteristics known as the 32 marks of a great man, including a serene expression and elongated earlobes. In addition to the Buddha, Buddhist art depicts various bodhisattvas, enlightened beings who embody compassion and assist others on the path to enlightenment. Avalokiteshvara Kuan-Yin in China and Manjushri are among the most revered bodhisattvas, often depicted in graceful and dynamic poses. Thangka paintings, intricate scrolls depicting deities, mandalas, and spiritual scenes, are an important aspect of Tibetan Buddhist art. These paintings are used as meditation aids and serve as visual representations of the teachings and the cosmos. In the modern era, Buddhism continues to adapt and respond to contemporary challenges, offering valuable insights and practices for individuals and communities. The principles of mindfulness, compassion, and ethical living resonate with people from diverse backgrounds and cultures. Mindfulness meditation, derived from Buddhist practices, has gained widespread popularity for its benefits to mental health and well-being. Programs such as mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR), developed by Jon Kabat-Zinn, integrate mindfulness techniques into medical and therapeutic contexts, helping individuals manage stress, anxiety, and chronic pain. Socially engaged Buddhism, a movement that applies Buddhist principles to address social, political, and environmental issues, has gained momentum. Figures such as Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen master, and the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, have advocated for peace, human rights, and environmental sustainability. Their teachings emphasize the interconnectedness of all life and the importance of compassionate action. Buddhist communities around the world continue to preserve and innovate within the tradition. Monasteries, retreat centers, and urban Dharma centers provide spaces for study, meditation, and community engagement. Buddhist scholars and teachers contribute to interfaith dialogues, promoting mutual understanding and cooperation among different religious and philosophical traditions. The story of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, is a testament to the transformative power of spiritual awakening and the pursuit of truth. From a sheltered prince to an enlightened sage, his journey exemplifies the quest for understanding and the path to inner peace. The Buddha's teachings, grounded in compassion, wisdom, and mindfulness, offer a timeless guide for navigating the challenges of life and cultivating a more compassionate and harmonious world. The legacy of the Buddha endures in the hearts and minds of countless individuals who continue to draw inspiration from his teachings. His profound insights into the nature of suffering, the impermanence of all things, and the interdependence of life remain relevant and accessible, providing a beacon of hope and guidance for those seeking to alleviate suffering and find meaning in their lives. The Buddha's life and teachings remind us that enlightenment is not a distant or unattainable goal, but a practical reality that can be realized through diligent practice, ethical living, and compassionate action. His example encourages us to look within, to understand the true nature of our minds, and to cultivate a heart of kindness and empathy for all beings. In a world often marked by turmoil and uncertainty, the Buddha's message of peace, compassion, and wisdom offers a source of solace and strength. His legacy continues to inspire and uplift, guiding us towards a more mindful, ethical, and compassionate way of living. Through the teachings of the Buddha, we are reminded of our potential for awakening and our capacity to create a more just and compassionate world for all. Thanks for watching.